El Maestro Speaks.
El Maestro Speaks
El Maestro Speaks.
Podcast.
And yep, we're recording.
Can't help falling in love.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, February 14 here in the Philippines. Yeah, I don't know. It's 12/26. Yep, it's past Valentine's Day. Anyway, hello to all those who are listening out there in every corners of this planet.
Falling in love with you.
Okay.
Like a river flows surely to the sea.
So this is a. We'll try the ducking. Well, it's just a
Are meant to be.
a reaction to I have because I have some of the research. I just saw some of the research that was shown by. Let me just take a look at that one because I just saved some of it here. Well, this is about. How can I say this? Research by a neuroscientist, Jared Coney Harvard. Harvard. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your family name here right, but he released some research, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about today. And of course, here in the Philippines, there are some pronouncements, statements made by a senator here that made some of this Generation Z frown at him, gave some of their thoughts, unfiltered thoughts about his statement. And yep, that's what we'll be talking about today. Oh, so yep, yeah, there's that, and I'm not sure if this is a new topic, but we see this in a comedy skit, comedy bit. We see this when we're talking with like old people that being including it. Yeah, we say that's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to accept that, but when you say old people, unfortunately that includes me. Yeah, looking back, yeah, I'm in my late 30s now, approaching 40s. So yeah, I belong to that old generation. Yeah, that hurts to say. Anyway, so yeah, we heard this a lot, and people will say this, and yeah, maybe there's some truth to it, but it's what we'll be talking about today. So it's about. So let's just go first with the statement of Senator Robin Padilla. He said, and I just want to quote one of the memes that was created here. And he said this in Filipino that the children in this generation, you guys are weak. You're not like us during our time, because during our time we're not a crybaby. We learn from the streets. We learn not to just sit and just cry. When during our time, um, the word depression is not common. I don't even know that right now in this generation, even the youngest child knows to say, I'm depressed. All right. So that is the statement of Senator Padilla. And I translated that hardly in English. So, uh, why am I speaking or talking to you about this in English is this because I think this is a worldwide topic that we need to talk about. And yeah, um, I think in the eye of the older generation, we can see like more and more of people are coming out to be diagnosed with depression. Yeah, a lot of us are now coming out, or a lot of this younger generation are being diagnosed of suffering from some mental difficulties, if you will, um, mental strains, and they need to undergo some treatment or whatever, therapy to cope up with that. We see that a lot in this generation. And what Robin Padilla is saying is that during their time, they did not experience that. So, yeah, that's the gist of the statement. Well, that statement made by the senator is not a new statement. We hear that often from older generations. We hear that being turned as a joke by stand-up comedians, telling that yeah, this generations are soft, right? We have a lot of like that by I forgot the name of the stand-up comedian, but there's a lot of them that will say that, right? And there uh, is a part of the older generation. I would say there's some truth to it, but wait, do not crucify me first for saying that, but I will explain to you why I said that. And I would also say that while it is true that during the time of these older generations, there are few mentions of depressions. There's also reason to that. So let's go to that. Let's just break his statement down one by one. All right. So in previous generations, I was talking to one of my fellow teacher and a radio broadcaster here in Baguio. His name is Agustin Dao Anis. He has a radio show at 13, what was it? 1368 kilohertz AM radio, RPNDZBS, every Saturday, 6 to 7 o'clock. Do your yakbot. So, I was thinking of bringing him in this episode and have a conversation about this, but yeah, February 14. I wanna have like even if we're not doing anything, I just want to stay with my family. I want to stay with my beloved wife and my children for like a day, doing nothing but still with them. That's why I canceled all scheduled podcast conversations today. Yesterday because today is Sunday, 12:35. Yeah, yeah. If you do love the things you do, you will find time to do it no matter what. So going back to what I'm saying is that um, Ruben Padilla said that during their time there was no such thing, or I mean, none to few mention of depression, right? But because I would also say that, but because during that time, there are few people focusing the attention to this kind of sickness. Use maybe there are psychiatrists, psychologists, but they are not so focused on the mental aspect or the mental health of humans. Um, like I said, I was talking to Augustin Dawanis about this, and he said there was no mention about mental or depression back in the day. But if you are going to look at the people who fought during the World War II, some of them suffered mentally. Some of them even lost their mind. I think he saw this firsthand because he is from Kibungan municipality here in Benguet, and in that municipality came the group of guerrilla fighters. They were called the Bolo men, who fought during the World War II against the Japanese here in the Philippines.
Watching broken dreams as I dream of the near.
And yeah, he's actually right. Maybe you saw some or heard some stories about those who, his word exactly was that there are those guys who went crazy after killing Japanese. Maybe they cannot process that the act of killing a fellow human being. That's why they lost their mind. Yeah, that's what he said. And I also had or heard list experiences of other people during the 1970s. These are soldiers who went to Mindanao during the insurgent during the martial law era in Mindanao, and they went there, experienced war, and came back here, and we call them war shocked because their episode will come out during times when they were drunk. They will be saluting. They will just be diving into sewers just to hide. I don't know. Um, that would tell you that they are suffering mentally. They came home. They came home with uh, physically safe, but their mind was already broken. So we have seen that also. But yeah, it was not labeled. And yeah, this previous generation also, um, especially in the province of Benguet, we've seen, at least in my case, I heard, and this is our all anecdotals. I don't have the data, but during my younger years, I heard numbers of suicide. I even heard, I think, in back in the 1990s, the numbers of suicides for men here in Benguet is unusually high. Yeah, it's high as compared to other regions in the Philippines. So there's that. Um, why do people commit suicide? It's because, yeah, they're suffering mentally. Okay, their mental health is compromised. Though we never heard about it because number one, in the Igorot culture, it's it's, I don't know how to say this. I don't think it's frowned upon, but we had it in our mind that as a man, you got to like take, don't let other people know that you're suffering. We had that in us. Like that is a sign of weakness. Or if you're showing that you're suffering mentally, if you, like, say for example, very basic example is that if you should not let other people see you're crying, you should not let people see that tears are rolling down your eyes, you know, because that is a sign of weakness. So any small clue that people will see that you're suffering mentally, it's a sign of weakness. That's why people, especially men, learn to like keep it in, learn to hide it, learn to like, yeah, drink their sorrows, eventually leading to, yep, alcoholism and ending your life. So there's that. We never heard depression during the days of our youth, but we've seen this, and a lot of studies now and experts now will say that that's where uncared or yep, um, that's where mental health depression will lead to, okay, if unattended mental sickness will lead to that, okay. So uh, when Robin Padilla said, or Senator Robin Padilla said that they've never heard that word before, yep, they never heard it. They never heard it, but it didn't mean that it did not exist. It existed, but it is considered as a, let's, it's not taboo, but it's frowned upon to admit that you have it. So it existed in secret, right? Um, that's the reason why. Now, why is it so prevalent, or why is it so common for, during this day and age, in this young generation's time? Well, because this generations were taught to like we're taught that it's not a weakness to admit that you're suffering a certain mental health condition like this. In fact, we encourage them to, yeah, have themselves diagnosed and, yep, tell other people that they're suffering in this kind of disease so that we know, or so that we can take care of them. So we encourage them. This pray the older generations encourage them to do so, right? That's why we hear a lot of people suffering from depression, mental, and whatever, and yeah, depression and the likes, mental sickness. I cannot. I'm looking for a good word to use for that, but yeah, mental health problems. We can. A lot of people are saying they're depressed. Okay, of course we have to have a diagnosis before we say that we are depressed. We cannot tell that we are depressed until an expert will say that you are. All right. Maybe the overusing of the word, that's where Robin Padilla is being confused. But, or why does he see that it's like a lot of these conditions are coming out right now? Okay, again, like I said a while ago, this is because the older generation, and um, there's this acceptance now in the community that it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength to accept that you are suffering from this disease, from this problem, and you're ready to face it on. Acceptance of the problem is the first step in addressing it. So it is now seen as a strength. Okay. So you know, we see a lot of people being depressed. Okay. But um, we also see that a lot of them are facing this problem and trying to overcome it, right? So there's no problem in that, right? Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Um, the older generation got this too, have suffered from this, but they just keep it mum. Now, this next generations might be wondering how were they and how did they go through it. That's when, okay, or that's where the older generation can say that they're a little bit proud of their generations, okay? Because of that practice of keeping it in. They were the most resilient generation ever, right? They know how to endure. And I think that's the trait that we have to bring back to this young generation, or this older generation must teach to this younger generation. It's being lost in a way, but like in a way I observe in my observation, society has a way of fixing itself if it goes awry, right? So in some way, there will be some experiences for this young generations that will teach them the value of being resilient, uh, of getting through obstacles, um, and yeah, the taste of the victory once you got through it. Okay, there's a value in that. I'm not saying that it's totally lost there, but it's not as if you compare it to the past generation, it's the experience that this Gen Z are having right now, I would say is a little bit milder nerfed than the experience that the previous generation had. Yeah, the experience of those previous generation is way harsher than the experience of this young generation, Gen Z specifically, right? So there's that. Uh, I think it is wrong to say that you guys are weak. Though I wouldn't say that this statement is wrong. I would say it is a good statement because through that statement we can have a conversation like this. Um, we can learn from each other. Okay, the older generation can learn from the younger generation, and the younger generation can learn from what this older generation have. Now, on the terms that maybe, yeah, he used the wrong term, and maybe what he wants to say is that this younger generation are less resilient now, that they are a little bit sensitive, things like that, and maybe a lot of like old people like me would agree that the Gen Zs are a little bit sensitive and easily disappointed, has less resilience in dealing with life. A lot of maybe my age mate will agree with me, right? But let's just take this again and take a look closer. Okay, who took care of this young generation? Isn't it us, the older generation? We're the one who raised them up, right? Right. So we did. We raised them up. Now, the question is, how did we raise them? Let that sink in. Right? Yeah, I heard a lot of parents back in the day when I was, back in my first years of teaching. They would say, oh, I never whipped my child. Uh, that one. I want to give thanks to my child that I did not experience back when I was the young one. There's that. Okay. I would not like my child to experience my childhood. There's that. Okay, so you did everything right. You did not use what was used to you growing up. You totally changed your parenting style. Yeah, and there's the result. A generation who are less resilient. So who are we going to blame? It is us. It is us. Because our generation, of course, we experience flying erasers, flying everything. We experience being whipped to the point that the stick's already broken before they stop. And at times, after the first stick was broken, there's a fresh one being given by your brother to be used on you again. So we experienced those, right? We can laugh about it now, but during those days now, um, we didn't want their children to experience those. So we we changed the parenting style to a different one, which caused this next generation to be less resilient and um less stronger in facing negative or facing pain, right? Because you should always remember that pain teaches teaches you something. Okay, it's a little bit of everything. This, but it should be in moderation. Our parenting style, when we did that, we forget about that. That we should do everything in moderation. Should be in control, right? Because we didn't want them to experience what we experienced, we just pampered them, like give them a lot of comfort. So who are we going to blame? Right now we are complaining, but who are we going to blame? It is in us. We took care of this upcoming generation. We're the one who took care of them. So it's our fault. Now, like what I said a while ago, society has that way of fixing things. And like I said a while ago, we have to accept this. We have to accept this. Okay. Millennials, it's your fault that Gen Z is like that. And Gen Z, okay, learn from us. Learn from us, right? You can learn from us. Okay, you can ask the older generations about pain, how to deal with it. Okay, instead of like I don't like what's happening right now. We're in the millennials are making fun of the Gen Z or the alphas because they're weak, they're like this and like that. Mm. Instead of guiding them, right? Instead of showing them the way, yeah. Um, another, I think, I would say, I would say that the Gen Zs are suffering because the millennials took care of them so much, protected them so much, which leads to another, the research I'm talking a while ago of, who was that? This guy. I don't know if you can see it in the camera for those who are watching, but for those who are listening, let me read this to you. Um, According to Jared Cooney, a neuroscientist, um, it is like a natural order of things that all generations did better than their parents, and we like that, right? So say the boomer, the was that the silent generations, or the next one on them should be better than their mother. Um, the greatest generation ever are better than the silent generation, and the boomers are better than the what they call the greatest generation, and millennials are better than the boomers, something like that. And that's the natural. Accordingly, that's the natural order of things, right? We like our children to be a lot smarter than us, better than us, more stronger than us. Yeah. So in terms of the brain department, we want them to be more intelligent than us, smarter than us, until the Generation Z. According to his study, they are the least intelligent generation. So, what happened? They're the first generation in modern history to score lower on standard academic tests than the one before it. So if yeah, they're lower than the millennials in terms of IQ. And to make matters worse, most of these young people are overconfident about how smart they are. The smarter people think they are, the dumber they are. Okay, so the smarter people think they are, the dumber they actually are. Yeah, yeah. Again, what did we do? Who took care of these kids? Right now, uh, one of the reasons, accordingly, why this generation are getting dumber is that they were born in the era of internet, of shared knowledge, easily accessible to them, right? They were born in the era wherein Google is there now. Google is like well established that you can easily research things in Google, right? Watch videos of cooking in Google. So it's expected, it's supposed to be that they will be better than the next generation, but I mean the previous generation. But I think there's a drawback in that. Okay, it because you can easily get informations in the internet. The exercise of memorizing things was lost. Okay, question: who created this technology? Right now, the AI, right? It's easier than searching the internet, browsing the internet. So there's that. It's making them use their brain more. Okay, so they're using their brain lesser and lesser because of the technology created. Who created the technology? Millennials, or let's just say the previous generation. So it's at fault is if we're to point fingers. It's the older generation, right? So yeah. I wouldn't say that putting guidelines on how to use this technology would solve this, but what I would say is that teaching and forcing, because this is difficult to do, forcing um, forcing yourself or instilling discipline to an individual will help them get through this. So if there's one thing that the previous generation can teach to this generation is that, yeah, those things, okay, they are well gifted in terms of technology and resources. They can easily have those, but in developing themselves, in improving their intelligence, improving their emotional quotient and their habits, that's when or where the previous generation can go in and teach them something, right? Um, Everything happening right now to this generation is actually the fault of the previous generation. We didn't want them to suffer. We want to give them something in an instant. We created this technology that gives them something in an instant. Here's the result. But like what I said before, this is good because this research are coming out. This observations are coming out, and through this conversations and pointing out, sharing of ideas, this is the start of fixing the problem. A community has that knack of fixing itself if it finds that the problem is going to destroy the community. So yeah, it community has that way of fixing itself if it sees destruction coming to its way. So, yeah, I think it's a problem now, right? Um, but yeah, again, if we are to point fingers here, who took care of them? It's us, right? Now, what we can do here to in this ending to this podcast is that what can we do then to address this mental health issues and to address this issue of our the next generation becoming less intelligent? Is that um, share sharing of practices from the previous generation, and the generations of incoming generations should look, observe, and learn from the experiences of the previous ones. Yeah. It's a community, and we have to help each other overcome whatever problems we have, right? So, yep, millennials, it's in your hand. Okay, the solution to this problem that these generations are having right now is in your hand. Start sharing them the values or the practice that you learned through those harsh experiences that you have. Not necessarily giving them the harsh experience that you had, but the values that you learned from it. Maybe you can give it to them, teach it to them in a way that won't hurt them, of course. So there's that. Okay. Yeah, we can solve this problem by sharing. Okay. Open communication instead of us hating each other because of this statements. It won't solve a thing if we do that. Instead, let's sit down, talk about this, share, teach each other, and that's how we will go through. That's how these millennials can help this upcoming generation. And once this upcoming generation will become the older one, okay, the values that they learned from us when we are gone in this world will also be passed to the next one. That's how it is. Teach our children well. All right, this is El Maestro Speaks. See you again in the next one.
El Maestro Speaks.
El Maestro Speaks
El Maestro Speaks.
Podcast.